save yourselves.
Are they
Run to the
basing that
hills.
on virus?
Yes, purely.
Yep. Yep.
Purely and completely. So that, yeah, they're
So
going, run to the hills, run to the hills. But hold on, the virus is at the hills. Run away from the hills.
So this may well be what we've been expecting to happen.
Yes.
About to unfold. Interesting.
Oh,
I can
yes.
see the Aussie.
Yes.
See the Aussie tumbling, and I'm bloody not on it either.
Jeez. Yes. I think that's exactly what's going on. It's I think we're probably likely to see further downside. But the thing is, Apple is such a monolith that this may be enough to tip the balance. People may not be waiting for the others, because there were counter stories about Chinese stimulus and the fact that China is starting to open up possibly on Thursday, but it doesn't seem to have an effect. I mean, I guess fairly fortunate that I was out last night, and by the time I got back, I quickly checked the news, and this has been reported. So I managed to kind of get in to the downside with this one, and I'll probably add to the position if it comes back. I'm just sharing my screen right now, but I'm going to add to the position at the green line. I think we may well get a gap and go, but I won't be too concerned if it closes the gap. I think we just need to get short and stay short. So I do have one position in that is short, but I'd like to add to this if I can. Because I just don't believe in it. I don't believe that this is going to be an up day or a buying opportunity, if you like, which many people see. I think we've got a fairly decent chance now to get down to the next point, which is all the way on the weekly chart down here. And we talked about this bar. I don't know, maybe we didn't talk about this bar yesterday, but we did in the Sunday show. Very negative weekly bar there. And I think this has got a fairly decent chance to get all the way down to the next 100 pip mark before possibly bottoming out again. It could go through it. I mean, the FTSE 100 is in a bit of a pickle when we come down to the way that the charts look. That's the lower low I was talking about, and I was talking about this being a potential lower high area. And if that's the case, then there's a chance that trend continues. And rather than stopping at this line, we stop down here before getting any kind of bounce. And even the bounce might then go down to the next point, which is down here. I mean, we may well be looking. And this is huge speculation because it's way out, but we might actually be looking at this. And I won't go on too long, mate, because I know you're going to set your pound trade.
Yeah, all right, mate.
We might be looking at this. I'm sure everybody knows exactly what I'm going to draw here. That might be the left shoulder. This area that we got going on may well be the head. So that means that this market could drag down here, pop back up again, and create a right shoulder along here. And then we could be down. Now, even though this seems possibly fairly fanciful, we have to continue to remember we're in an 11-year expansion. And really, after such a huge expansion, there's every chance that we get a huge contraction, So this market could be now that doesn't mean we go short and stay short. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to go long, and I'll be taking those because people want to buy stocks. But there's a chance that the pops to the upside might be a sell the rip kind of scenario, and we need to stay short for quite some time. It does mean that we get a nice cheap stock market, which is never a bad thing. And it also means that even if we come down here, we'll be looking at the long because head and shoulders don't tend to work out. So it might be that that becomes a huge buying opportunity. Now that is 1.5-ish. Let's call it 1,300 pips to the downside. And when the FTSE 100 sits at 7,003, then that is a huge percentage. It's like 20% drop potentially. But anyway, mate, I will let you take screen because I know that you want to do your thing. But just to reiterate, we are looking for shorts in the FTSE and to either add if you're already in or just to get in to the downside.
Righto, give me some legs here, mate, and I'll weigh up this situation with the pound.
There you go. You got some legs.
Beautiful. Gee, they're good legs too. Where do I get them from? Must have been all that.
We'll have to have a section. We'll have to have a section on the best legs that you could possibly have got.
Rightio, here we go. We're near the top. We better put a buy order in the market first. We'll be looking at a full percentage point here, and it will be a buy stop. Now, I was actually bullish the pound yesterday, and all this news has kind of led me in the opposite direction now. We shall see. Entry for this one's going to be a shocker. Bang on daily pivot. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. 1.3017 will be the entry. 1 point. Doesn't look right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. 1.3017 will be the buy order. The stop loss will be at 1.2975. We lost 1.6 pips yesterday, mate.
Oh, that's atrocious work.
Yeah, shocker. That's exactly how it's supposed to work when you lose.
Yeah, that's
you
good.
lose
Actually,
a very
isn't it?
little.
Yeah.
So that order is now cool. Now we need to sell. And the sell will be mine like a sieve today. Hey, the boss is coming in later. Must be nervous. Is that it? 1.2975 is the sell order, and the stop loss on the sell order will be where the buy order was at 1.3017. And now we'll find out how bad that entry will be. Oh, pending order. It's a buy. It's a sell stop, right? And 1.2975, 1.3017. Let me try that again. Why won't it let me do it? What have I done? Sell stop. Right, that's all good. That's all good. Open price must differ price by 0 points. What is it trying to tell me? 2975 is nowhere near price right now. This is quite bizarre. All right, let me get rid of that and try again. All right, we've got the long in place. We need the shorts, so we'll go sell stop at 1.2975. The stop loss will be 1.3017. That's not what I want. That's what I want. And Bob's your uncle. There we go. Look where that entry is. My God, you just wouldn't do it. And we are now 2 days away from adding filters to this particular trade, guys, which is, I repeat, for those of you joining us for the first time, in beta test mode. And we are not promoting this as a tradable entity just yet. I'm trading it. I'm trading it with real money. So not mine, of course. It's the boss's. But we are looking at a very, very dodgy entry here for the long. And next week, I would not be taking that entry. I'll make a decision as to whether I'll actually enter at the top of the bar and take profit there, or whether we'll enter above here based on what I see. Hopefully, if I get the research done into exactly what we've been looking at. I'll show you the spreadsheet on Thursday. I haven't updated it for a couple of days, so we'll hold off on that. But we are, I think, will we hold off on that? Have I got it here? I don't think I've got it here ready. No, I don't. so I can't show you at the moment. I haven't got it loaded, but never mind. We'll look at that. I think we're up about 9, nearly 10%
Oh,
over the
nice.
2.5 months. Yeah, not as good as you would like, because I'd like to see at least 4 or 5% per month. That would be good. And
That's close though, mate.
yeah,
Nine,
I
ten
think we can get
percent. I
there.
mean, that is 4.5, 5% a month.
Well, no, well, we're 3 months in 2 days, so not quite, but kind of getting towards it. And I think we can improve that really easily. I don't
This
think
is
it's
the
going to be
pound trade we're
difficult.
talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know, I think that's incredible because we had a pretty bad run at the start of the year, didn't we? So for this to be up
We have 14 losses in a row?
something like that,
I think we
something
did.
like that. But it just goes to show that the benefits of firstly compounding, but I suppose the benefit of sticking with a strategy and absorbing the losses just so you can shake them off and eventually get some winners. But I think that's brilliant, mate.
Yeah, look, what did we have? We had 25 winners and 31 losers as of last Thursday. And we've had 2 winners and 1 loser since. So the ratio is up around about 45% or thereabouts. And if we can maintain, we're only about 9%, I think. If we can maintain that win-loss ratio and tighten up or improve the win-loss ratio, which I think we can. But if we can get that around about 50% and keep our losses as small as yesterday, for instance,
Yeah.
I think we're on a good thing.
I think it's great. I think it's great. I mean, that gets close to doubling the account every year, which is a brilliant aim. Even if you get 50% back of your account each year, that is something that any other investment class will not give you.
It's certainly beating the markets, that's for sure. Although in the last few years they've been going okay, one would have to say. When will that end? Where's that big retracement coming? Are we now looking at something of a correction? Perhaps we are. As the world actually and the markets actually maybe start thinking, well, this virus is a little bit more than we bargained for.
Yeah, I think there's every chance, mate. I think there's every chance we're in that particular phase right now. FTSE 100 is managing to pop back to the upside, so this really is a selling opportunity anywhere in this phase. I will grab screen just for a little while, mate, and then I'll give it straight back.
Go for it. While you're doing that, guys, we do have the CEO and co-founder of Actions to Wealth joining us in about half an hour's time. If you would like to ask him any questions, you can't. What you can do is put those questions in the chat box, and we will ask them on your behalf. I've got a few fiery questions for him that I want to ask, and this will be part of our, what do I call it? Let's meet the trader.
Oh, I like that. Let's meet. Yeah.
So a bit more personal talk to the boss man when he comes in, and I hope you'll enjoy that. And if you do have any questions you'd like to ask him, then great opportunity. All you have to do is put some questions in the chat box, and we will ask them for you. Make them nice and clean, and you might have a chance of getting them asked. Righto, Ash, sorry, mate.
Yeah, so the FTSE 100 is having a fairly nice pop to the upside right now, which does give us a selling opportunity. Now, there are 3 areas that I'm interested for the sell. This area here is the first. Now, it's a fairly negative market, so this might be it. But there's something that tells me that this area is going to give way, so I'm not too keen on this one. Let me just change this. But if your money management and risk appetite is such, then that is a decent area to try and get your trade into the short side. The next area is the gap. So do we get a gap and go effectively for the shorts? And that would be, I think, the most likely. We'll pull up some other data as well and see what might be the most likely area for us to fail at. And obviously the last one would be this area here, which is going to be somewhere around about that daily pivot. So there's three potential opportunities for a short. Now the top one is quite a long way away. You know, if you're thinking about a short-term trade, that's 30 pips away, and that's, you know, getting close to an ATR kind of range. So I don't think we should go for the second one. Looks okay because it doesn't look like that. You know, that those two lines are only 10 pips away from each other. So that's that particular point looks all right for a potential trade to the downside, which is worth waiting for. Now, the other thing about that is that we have German ZEW numbers out at 10 o'clock, and it might be worth us waiting on those numbers because, further corroboration that that we are in a bit of trouble worldwide might be just what this market is. It will need to really start to move to the downside. But there's no question that the news from Apple, let's just bring up some other markets here and some other charts. The news from Apple has been extremely badly received. This is the S&P 500 gap in the market, and maybe that again, you know, this could turn into something of a signal for some further downside on the S&P, and you know, we could be looking at something similar with this, where it pops up and closes the gap, gives us that left shoulder, and then starts to go. So let's not get too overexcited, but you can see that there is a line along here as well. So it, you know, anywhere along these areas could be the area that we fail from. There we go. There's a fairly good line there. And that would suggest actually that that high might well be the area that we're looking at. So anywhere along this line would be a decent area to look for. I'm not 100% sure why the markets are rallying quite as hard right now, but you see the Dow is the same, again attempting to hang on. This market has been in a fairly positive and strong trend to the upside. So there is there's probably going to be plenty of motivation to try and keep the upside buoyant. But an hourly,
you can see people thinking, oh, we've done this for the last 2 or 3 days. Every dip's a buying opportunity. Let's
go. Exactly, and maybe that's what we get. You know, people are still bullish, but you know, we got Apple, right? You know, Apple posting the numbers that they've posted. It's not particularly positive. But you know, we are seeing that surge now back to the upside. Let's just continue to check some barometers. Yeah, I'm still really keen on the short really with this market. I don't see a huge turnaround. FTSE 100 has managed now to grab back quite a bit of its loss of the first bar, almost 50 pips to the downside. So this really is a decent area to try the short, which I probably will do. In fact, that's exactly what I am going to do. There we go. Right, I have taken a couple of I've taken another trade to the downside at this level. Now, I'm not saying that this is the perfect level. I would have what I really want is to wait for that ZEW number, and it might be that the ZEW number gives me another potential entry to the downside. But I think right now, just the way these markets are behaving, it's probably worth getting in on a short light. You know, always go in light because you want some room to maneuver. But right now, it looks like it could be a bit of a gap and go scenario here. Now, the ZEW number could freeze this market up. You know, we might actually get we might well get a situation where we wait for the German ZEW economic sentiment, and if that comes in negative, that might turn things around again. You know, there's no certainty that that the market will drop, especially if that number comes in fairly positive. But let's watch out for that number and see what happens. But we are looking, as I say, we're looking for selling opportunities now. That obviously the best out of all of them is going to be here. So if it gets to that point, then I would suggest, again, you know, go in light. You can always add. That's the point with all this. You know, you want to go in again, or you go in here, you go in down here, and you go in down here. So you're always looking to add to your position no matter what happens. But pretty good pump to the upside, I have to say, mate. You know, it certainly appears like the market might attempt to hold on to to the upside. It might continue to fight for the upward trend, but I have a very little belief in it right now, and I think looking for the downside is probably where the smart money currently is. Who knows if we get some more monoliths like Apple coming out and giving some profit warnings as well? Then if the S&P is designed on earnings, the S&P, that the markets are designed on earnings, then that may well be enough to halt those earnings. Look at that. That's a really nice number there as well. So anywhere I'd say in this area is a decent area for a short. So I will leave you figure out where you want to try and go into the market short. Stops obviously would be around about this area up here. So we're looking at around about a 50 pip stop, but we're looking for a fairly significant drop to the downside. So that would be an area that I'd want some cushioning if this market was to turn. But I would have a lack of faith in it right now. So that's where we are, mate. We are short in the market and attempting to add to positions.
Right, mate. I'm on board with you. I think short is definitely the sport today, unless, of course, you've got a currency that is considered to be a safe haven, because I think that's where we're headed. And in my mind, I've got to say it's probably overdue.
Yeah.
You'll have to stop sharing, mate.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry.
But as you said, Ash, I don't think we can get too overexcited right now. This is early days, and we should get plenty of opportunities to find our way in here. And I think I'm saying that with my fingers crossed, I've got to say, because if the Aussie tanks and I'm not on board, I won't be a happy chappy. And I'm not on board at the moment. I've got a weekly order in place on a minor time frame, and as I said, that was a bit of an insurance just in case I missed out on the earlier time frames. But I'm certainly hopeful that we'll get a retracement of some kind, and therefore an opportunity to jump in to these shorts. And why I'm so keen on the Aussie is very much populist theory, if you like, or conventional wisdom, in that any form of risk off mentality or the word I'm looking for is evading me, but any form of risk off scenario, then the Aussie will probably be one of the first currencies to suffer. And that's why I'll be very, very keen to get short if there is an opportunity presents itself. So we have been triggered short on the pound.
Wow.
And yeah, it didn't take long at all. So the market's sending a pretty clear message early that it is going to react in kind to the virus, because you would expect to see a bit of dollar strength under those circumstances, and that's probably what we're seeing here. Let's have a look at that across the board. The euro, poor old euro, has gone into snoozy mode, but why wouldn't it? Because it's been a very, 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 very dramatic, if you like, fall from grace for the euro. Just look at that. Wow. That's kind of crazy stuff. That's 200 pips in a heartbeat, kind of, in a couple of weeks. And, you know, these sort of things, I won't say were commonplace, but when we got breakouts, when the market was just a little bit different than it is these days, 200 pips in 2 weeks, nothing. That was nothing. These days, that's very substantial, because the markets tend to be, and I think we all agree with this, a bit more reversion to the mean type markets intraday. So we don't really see these breakouts go a long way too often. This one, however, seems to have very good legs. We're talking about legs. Must be a leg day. And there's an interesting point where we currently are on this pair, of course, and it's that level there. That has been resistance in the past, and maybe, and I expected before this this Apple thing, and I'm yet to, I guess, determine whether that's really going to set the markets on waterfall course. But you'd be expecting a bounce here, and I certainly was of that opinion yesterday. Maybe I need to reassess that given the Apple news that has hit us overnight. So let me think about that a little bit more and look at the charts. It's still pretty clear what I need to do, and what I need to do is not go short here unless I've got inside knowledge that market's about to crash, and I don't. But the obvious thing for me to do is wait, and this is modus operandi 101 for me, I suppose. Wait till we hit resistance, then look to play it short. I don't like to trade short at support, and that is exactly where we currently are. So
yeah, that's always the trickiest one, isn't it, mate? Because it's the emotive trade area, that one, and it's hideous when you miss it. You know, when a market is tanking and you miss it, but
Yep.
more often than not, they just don't work out.
Yeah, look, been burnt many times on that one with an absolute, dead set bias. This has got to go short. This has got to go short. This has got to go short or long, whatever the case may be. And just jumped in, just set an order, maybe even underneath the lows. Very, very dodgy. Yes, and it's very much similar to what I just said before. Often times you will see the market start to go, then retrace, start to go, then retrace. That's the beauty of the market, I suppose, and technical analysis will normally sort that out for you. But these are the times, when we're in this situation. Okay, it's zero retracement at this point in time. How do we actually take advantage of the fact that we've got a very strong suspicion that the market is going to continue to fall?
Yeah.
And that is always going to be the quandary for us. But my way to deal with that is, if I miss it here, I don't care, because it's very, very low probability, as you just said. They more often than not don't work. So just go back to, as I said, modus operandi 101. And if you have one, mine is wait till it hits a resistance level and then bounces off it or goes through it, and then that is proven false. That's the time to go for me, not off support. So, and then of course the question raises, okay, if I'm not going short, am I willing to trade long? The answer is always going to be yes, I am, on a small time frame. But I'm not going to try and swim against the tide here with the bigger time frames. Why the smaller time frames? Because of exactly what I just said. There's ebb and flow. There's buying and selling going on all the time, and as soon as somebody finds a little bit of profit, they might cash that in, and they're the ones I want to take advantage of. If that's the case here, then I need a reason to do that, and the reason to do that would be a technical reason. This is interesting, this little lower low here, which has kind of failed. I'm quite interested in that. It hasn't happened quickly enough for me, I've got to say. Normally you see these little duck downs here below the support level, or in the opposite direction, above the resistance level. You'll normally see that happen, and then the market will go very fast in the opposite direction. That's potentially a signal of reversal about to happen. I don't see that, but I don't see anything else either. I don't see the particular scenario that says to me, okay, this is now a break of the support level and a retest of the resistance level. I'm not seeing that clearly. All I'm seeing really is a market that's saying to me, oh, we're not really sure. We just don't know yet. And I'm in exactly the same camp as that. So to trade this at all right now, I need to see a clear signal, maybe a double bottom, hitting that bottom again, and then a higher low, something like that can get me interested, if I am in any way, shape or form interested in trading this back to the trend line. And I wouldn't want to be going beyond that, I've got to say. I can't see in the whole wide world why this would reverse right now. But on a 30-minute time frame, more than willing to trade it to the resistance if it sets up. Not willing to go short until we get to there. So that's pretty much the euro summed up for me. It's very, very difficult to see any way that I'm going to trade this anytime soon. I really want to see that as a double bottom before I did. The Aussie, oh, don't go. Just don't. Don't leave me stranded. I don't want... this is not what I want to see, Ash. But fully what I expect, I've got to say.
Yeah.
And fully what I've expected for weeks on end. Is this the start of the tumble? Well, maybe not. I can't call that right now. What I can call is the potential for this to bounce again. And if it did and went back to weekly pivot or daily pivot or the trend line, that's where I want to trade it from. So exactly the same as I've just said on the euro. There's no way I want to trade this short right now at support. But if it goes back to resistance in this nice little catchment area, I'll call it, then I reckon that's going to be a really prime area to look for a short on Aussie US dollar. And if you want to take that through to the miners, then I think there'll be plenty of opportunity in those as well. You know, Aussie CAD in particular, Aussie Yen in particular, Aussie Swissy in particular. And I think those of you who are interested in, as we've spoken about, and we're releasing this very shortly, you and I, Ash, are doing a daily chart, well, not necessarily a chart, but a synopsis of where we think the markets will head, and perhaps even, I think there's a trade in my one today that I've suggested. They're not available to you guys yet, but they will be coming up very, very shortly. We'll be calling those the 2-minute brief or 5-minute brief. I'm not sure how long it takes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really to make sure that when we're off air, everybody has got an opportunity still to understand the way we're thinking, isn't it? Because
absolutely.
You know, we can tell you what's going on in the morning, but then the afternoon session, you know, i.e. the American Open and the American session, almost acts as a different day. So sometimes, you know, Jeff and I are trading sort of in the afternoon, and you guys are probably a little bit in the dark. So we're really just trying to kind of give you even more information if we can.
That's probably much in your case more than mine, because I will be putting my synopsis or my preview actually out before London Open each and every day. They will become available. I'm not sure when they're going to become available. We'll keep you posted on that. Probably
we'll have a chat with James. We'll see if we can get them in up. And what we might do, if you guys are okay with it, we might, as you know, we're going to make some announcements next week or so about doing some extra stuff for free around the coronavirus suffering. So we might perhaps make them available for the rest of this week and perhaps next week for free, and then we might move them and start and charge them. We might make them. I'll talk to James if we can get them up and ready for tomorrow, eh?
Great.
Yeah, I was going to ask you permission to do that actually, and I might even give you a flash preview of mine a little bit later in the show. That's the boss man, of course, PB. He'll be joining us very, very shortly as we drill down into his style of trading, how he got there, and a little bit more information about Actions to Wealth, what's coming up, as he just said. Let's move on to the cable, and we are in that trade. We now have to, as you guys know, trail this on a 15-minute chart. Haven't done that, but I'll do that in just a tick. My analysis tells me one thing, and what I've just heard from Ash tells me quite another today. And what I saw analysis-wise was the potential for this to be a false break of the bottom of the rectangle, the former resistance and support level, and also this trade line. So I was quite a bullish little bear. I'm known as a bear with my wife, right? Not to confuse bull and bear in terms of trading. I was quite a bullish person. Let me put it that way.
There's a movement of the bears in Brighton that you probably don't want to be a part of.
Okay. Is that an off-air type? Could I ask?
Oh no, I'm
with it
quite happy
being
to
Bryson,
share.
You can
Quite
pretty much guess what
happy
it is. Yeah. Jeff, I've known you for a while, and I don't think you'll be part of that organisation. You're welcome if you want to be. If you're coming out and you want to get part of it, you go and enjoy yourself. But I don't think you will.
Not going to happen, right? Okay. I think I've got the message. So, guys, I did have an order this morning that I placed in the morning show on this that I was probably quite keen to share with you guys. I'm not so sure that's in play now, but let's watch the market and let's see how that unfolds. And I think this is still quite a potential long here. And the entry that I'm using, if you want to follow it, is at 1.3056. I've got a stop loss of 69 pips, and quite coincidentally, I set my stop loss just underneath the monthly pivot, and it turned out to be a 1-to-1 take profit one. How interesting. Maybe there's a little omen there for us. So that is cable. What would cause me to cancel that order would be probably a close below this level, which has been so strong. So probably if it closes below where we are now, I would cancel that order and have no qualms about it, because the fundamentals seem to be, as we said before, on the precipice. And are we tipping over that precipice going into a very strong risk-off mentality? And as I said before, perhaps that's well overdue. Dollar yen update on the trades. We're now back retesting the top of this range, and that's interesting in many degrees for me. Not because I'm in that trade in particular, but because of where we are. If we came back now into this range and retested the top of it, I think we're probably headed back to the trend line, which is the bottom of a channel, and of course the bottom of our range. The monthly pivot would be an obvious place to get off most of your position if that were to be your preference to get into that trade. There's almost a nice one for me there right now. If I were bold enough, I would probably place an order underneath that candle. I'm not bold. Well, maybe I'm wiser, more than not bold, because there's a fair bit of support to get through there yet. I'd like to see that break, then come back to here, then give me the lower high, then trade it down short. I think that's far better than where we currently are. So forgetting the trade that I'm in at the moment, I think the bias right now is still short, and that's exactly what I'd like to see to trade it. Any time frame would probably suffice. Let me have a look at, yeah, same. It's all the same. Let this break, take out the support level, come back and retest the confluence, and away you go. Dollar Swissy is in an interesting position, and I don't think I can get really interested in this just now. It does look to have retraced somewhat, but my question is going to be, has it retraced enough for me to get interested to trade it long still, or jump in to this extremely bullish move? The answer has to be maybe, and I know that doesn't help too much, but I can see a resistance level above us, and that's that red line that I had on my chart that we put in our chart yesterday. But it goes back to exactly the same thing as always. Am I willing to trade straight into a resistance level? That being the daily pivot. Okay, it's had a little bit of a test today. It's not that bad, but straight above it is the absolute high. So I don't see this as a good reward trade. And I do think that there's potential for this to retrace a little bit further, maybe down to this level here. So it's a no for me in terms of the longs for dollar Swissy. Last two, Kiwi US dollar. And since he's in the room, I'm going to ask him. There was a definite thought process going through 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think, and both Paul and Julian were in on this one, and they were telling me that there was a good reason economically to think that we could see a stronger Kiwi dollar. Is that still the case, mate, or is there coronavirus has really now put a bit of a dampener on that?
Mate, I think that, Aussie and New Zealand are considered to be risk-on currencies, and I think the coronavirus has certainly taken focus away from risk-on currencies. And so I think the fundamentals of the New Zealand economy remain pretty good. We've just seen a $12 billion infrastructure package rolled out as an election bribe from the government, and the opposition have just come out with 4% tax cuts as their pre-election. The election's 12 months away too. The bribery is really cool. Look, I think we're going to see a typical sort of election year. A lot of promise at the start of the year if coronavirus comes under control. It's been an interesting day for coronavirus. Very few infections outside China today, noticeably less, and that could be a really good sign for the world. Actually, Ash, talking about coronavirus, what's happening with that cough, buddy? Don't you have it on your street?
Yeah, we do actually. Yeah, we do.
Wow, mate, you didn't get out of England and find somewhere safe to go.
If I could get on a transporter, then I'd be straight over in Asia. It's the travel I don't fancy. But so yeah.
Well, mate, it's got nothing to do with coronavirus for me. That's just the travel, It doesn't, I don't either travel in the best of times, mate. As you travel more and more, it's you just get more and more bored on planes. The planes I fly on don't have live TV like yours do.
Yeah, it's not the boredom. No, when I say the travel, it's the potential that I could be sat right next to somebody with it. I mean, actually, kind of like being in a hotel, and then going from hotel just to
Did you read into those articles I sent you?
I did.
You sent me some articles. I forwarded them to you, mate. Bloomberg says you're safe. If Bloomberg says you're safe, mate.
Do you know what's interesting? Because every article I read for one side of the argument, there's another one coming out in the other way. I don't consider myself a particularly paranoid person, but this thing is, I'm finding it quite concerning. I mean, the market certainly doesn't like it.
I read something today where they said that this could become a pandemic and 40 to 70% of the planet could get it.
Yes.
And, again, one thing they also said was that if we did, it wouldn't be, by the time we got it, it would be, we're not all going to die or anything.
Yeah.
Which is good because I've got no immediate plans, Mate, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, you're not here yet.
I'm not here yet. I'll be in. I think we've just posted in the next few minutes. So we'll be doing you guys will be interviewing me as part of your Meet the Trader series, the first one. We're having a little practice with me before we get a few different traders in. So we'll be doing a Q&A with the boys in a few minutes. Jeff, I think the Kiwi is a long-term buy.
Just got to settle this thing down first. Yeah.
Look, it's a bit like the oil thing. The more oil fell, the more you just knew there was a buy coming. It was going to be a really good buy. And, there's a lot of that going on. Like, boy, if you've got a view and you're prepared to be patient, it's a really good market to be in. It's a really good market to be in,
That's the key, isn't it? That's the absolute key. I mean, obviously, everybody has a different trading style. So, in some respects, patience is a subjective term, if you like. So, the way that certainly that the markets are going today, it's looking like the world is going to end at this particular stage. But that actually is great because it does create a buying opportunity. If you are long, if you have a fundamental long position or a long view on equities, then things like this are fantastic. We need some volatility. This market has been lacking volatility for quite some time. And I would like to see this market really come down significantly so we can get our shopping trolleys out. But there's certainly as we look today, as I say, the patience is a subjective term, and I think we can be patient and just wait for this market just to come down just a little bit further before we start to get bullish on it. But certainly looking negative today. I'm just watching, some of the risk off. The bonds have been bid today. So bond yields are lower. We're seeing gold surging to the upside again. Obviously, we're seeing the S&P, the Dow Jones, and the Nasdaq all suffering. The FTSE 100 suffering. European markets are suffering. So we do want this to clear out. But that Apple news may well be the catalyst that starts us, gets us a decent buying opportunity, because that really is ultimately what we're looking for.
What's the Apple news?
So Apple have released a profit warning. So only 2 months ago, they were quite bullish on what their profits were going to be, but they've now released a profit warning because of the coronavirus. They've said it's affecting top and bottom line. sales, so that is driving the market lower. You know, I heard that overnight, and it did affect the market overnight, and we are seeing some gaps to the downside of the market. The market is still attempting to hold on, but I don't hold out too much hope in this particular stage. I think we're probably waiting till 10 o'clock UK, and after 10 o'clock UK, I think that we might well see some easing to the downside.
You know, I don't want to interrupt Jeff's analysis. We're sort of right in the middle of this. We can talk more as part of the interview thing. But, you know, one of the things, Ash, I feel sorry for the value investors. You know, guys have been taught 10 years ago that value investing is really important. They should find a bargain.
Yeah.
And they've waited 10 years for a decent pullback.
Yeah.
So I hope they get one. You know, I hope the value investors actually get a chance to get into the market in the not distant future. Jeff, I don't want to hold you up because I know you were doing NZ dollar Aussie. So are you doing the Kiwi? Let's finish off your analysis. We'll have more of a chat, eh?
All right, mate. Absolutely. Dollar CAD actually really is the last one that I want to have a look at. And the reason I want to have a look at it is we had a good little question I've got a little group that is part of my strategy leader coaching situation. And we're talking about this scenario this morning in that group. And this was a very good setup as far as I was concerned to trade this short. And that really hasn't changed from a technical point of view. But what has happened, and exactly what you guys have just been talking about, is that there has been a momentum shift based on perhaps that Apple announcement, but certainly there has been a momentum shift at this point in time. That could, of course, go back to towards any tick of the clock, and hopefully for this particular scenario that will be the case. But there was an order underneath this bar here, and that's now looking under threat. The interesting part about that is if this now does take out, let's say, the daily pivot, come back and retest that confluence area, it's going to be a fairly bullish sign for dollar CAD. And I know I'm on a daily chart here right now, but if we drill down into the smaller time frames, you can see, and I'll put a trend line through there so you can actually see it properly. We probably use that one. That has done exactly the opposite that we had going in the short direction. So we're getting a conflict of signals here. The reason I wouldn't take this long is because we are approaching the weekly pivot, and I think that will offer some resistance. Whether it's enough to pull this back and go in the direction that we consider is I'm nearly going to say the right direction, is entirely another story. But it's very, very mixed there at the moment because we've got a technical scenario that is confusing and a fundamental scenario which is maybe not. It's kind of up in the air at the moment. So a little bit difficult to call this one. But if you're in the short at the moment, you've got a few worries, but the weekly pivot may be your savior. Let's hope that's the case. Very quickly, back to cable. We're still just around about that entry level, not doing too much there at all, trailing that on a 15-minute chart, and hoping, of course, that it takes off to the downside for our trade. If you're in a long, then probably you don't want to know about that, but the breakout trade is telling us short at the moment. Let's see how that continues. Ash, unless you've got something to add, we will probably go into the interview.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Just a quick note, actually. Interestingly, the FTSE 100 is able to hold on, and I wonder whether it is something to do with that pound move to the downside. We are actually seeing some of the bigger banking stocks doing fairly well right now. They're holding on to some half decent gains. We've got Barclays up near 1%. We got Royal Bank of Scotland also that's been pretty badly beaten up. That's up around about 0.5%, and Lloyd's is around about flat. So interestingly, that I've got a list of the monoliths on the FTSE 100, and out of those, it appears to be the banking stocks which are doing fairly well, which I find quite interesting. The pound is moving down, but those banking stocks are just about holding on. Now, that doesn't mean I'm changing my view. I think this market is probably going to fall, but it's just about able to hold on. And again, I think we're waiting for another hour and a quarter before we really see this move filter in and start to tank. But yeah, aside from that, I would stick with the shorts, guys. If you've managed to get in the short, then stick with it, and we will see if this one does play out the way I would expect it to. But yeah, let's meet the trader, mate. We need a little jingle.
Well, we'll work on that.
I can get a jingle
because
done for you guys over time too.
Yeah.
if we play a jingle, then he'll get an email saying that you're not allowed to play that jingle.
Yeah.
I'll have to write one. I'll have to write one, won't I?
I?
I'll have to set up my music software and get something written.
But listen, surprise, surprise, guys, and this will be a part of a series that we're going to conduct over the coming weeks, and completely free to air. You guys are going to be, I won't say the word subjected, I'll use the word exposed to some very, very interesting traders around the world, traders that have been handpicked because they are successful traders, and we want to give you even more for bang for your buck, if you like, by exposing you to different scenarios and different ways to trade the market around the world. Let's face it, there are 6,000 million and counting ways to enter and exit the market. One of those was probably the reason that I met our first guest, of course, and you know he's here, so I can't really say any more about it than let's meet the trader that we're talking about today. And you've heard his voice many, many times. You've seen his jovial face around the place, I'm sure, in all parts of the world. But it's our CEO and co-founder of Actions to Wealth, Paul Bottrell. Welcome, mate.
G'day, mate. Thank you. Much appreciated.
You're more than welcome. Great to start this series with you, because it's very much the reason that we're here is you. And let's get straight into it. By the face, as I said, is probably familiar to most of the people in the room, the voice certainly, but maybe they don't know too much about the man, Paul Bottrell. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and in particular, I suppose, how and why you became a professional trader.
Yeah, mate. Look, I'm happy to talk about it. I think this is a story used to tell quite a lot in the old days, and perhaps not quite so much now. When I was a little bit younger, I was living in New Zealand, and I had a business there running indoor cricket and indoor netball arenas, and we were doing pretty well. I had a house and a couple of nice new cars, and things were pretty cool. And when I got married, my wife decided that she wanted to work overseas and travel. And look, I'd never even considered leaving New Zealand. I'd never even thought that that it was possible.
Could have fooled me.
I was yeah, mate. I loved it there, and I thought life was good. And I spent some time thinking about it, and I thought, I want to support my wife, but also, I actually need to go and live a different life and see some different things. And I sold the businesses, one before I left and one after I left, and sold the cars and kept the houses and rented them out, and headed off to Denmark. And when I got to Denmark, Denmark's hard if you don't speak Danish. And I found out that the money I got from selling my business, which was, a reasonable amount of money in New Zealand, well, it was bugger all money in Europe, let me tell you. Spent a hell of a hurry, and I sort of, I'd sort of started just before I left dabbling in trading, and I had a account with CMC Markets, and I had a friend over there, Leon, who's now the head of risk for Nordea Bank, a guy that's coming to Bali this year for the first time. You guys will actually meet Leon for the first time in Bali in October, and he used to tell me that he couldn't teach me to trade because it was a subconscious skill for him, but he could tell me what to read, and we could chat about it, and we used to talk about it, and he used to say to me all the time, look, you'll be really good at this, just do it. And eventually I put a couple of $1,000s into an account, and I think it's been talked a little bit about. I had a bit of a dream start. I traded the Lehman Brothers crash in the early days, and I had a pretty good run, to be fair. I made a bit of money, and from then on I was pretty hooked. And because we were traveling, we went sort of 18 months Denmark, 18 months London, 2.5. I think my wife was 2.5 years in Singapore. I was I was based there for about 4. We commuted between before I came back to New Zealand. So the trading gave me a chance to make some money and do some things while I was traveling and living a different life. I'm
going to say, trading actually afforded you the ability to do that.
Yeah, it really did. It gave us a lot of choice. And, at the end of the day, my wife, it's one of those things in life. It's not a bad thing. My wife has a good career, and her income perhaps gave us some stability, and it allowed me to be quite brave in my trading, and and to trade without too much fear while I was learning. And really, I had a little bit of early success. I was reasonably lucky. I got picked up and went to the trading floor in London, But it was a combination perhaps of a little bit of luck and some hard work. And I think I'd had an interest in trading for 10 years before I started trading. I used to read a bit about it and follow some stuff online without ever actually doing it.
Yeah, look, the luck's the one thing, but there's nothing that would have kept you lucky over a period of time. It's the hard work that's got you where you are now. There's no question there, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that, is just the truth of it, Jeff, that, trading's one of those things that at some stage you've just got to do a certain amount of hours in front of charts to understand them. I mean, you're the perfect example, Jeff, where, you just sat in front of charts until they made sense to you. And I remember I sat with you for a lot of those hours for a long time. And, at the end of the day, the slingshot strategy, it's different and it's low, it's high prob, low reward to risk. It's not fashionable, but boy, it teaches you how to understand the market. It was a great grounding for both of us in those days,
Couldn't agree more, mate.
Just to kind of add to that a little bit as well, mate. What would have been your approach mentally at that point? Because obviously reading charts is part of the picture, but when was it that it dawned on you that actually the mentality side of it was one of the key players in becoming a better trader?
Look, I think my start gave me a really different view on psychology to most people.
Yeah.
So I had the 3 days that I turned the $2,000 account to a $52,000 account in 3 days. And I remember sitting at home alone. I actually asked my best friend who was visiting just to give him a bit of space. I was sitting at home looking at my screen at the end of that session and going, and I traded, an hour or two on the first 2 days and half an hour on the third day to make that money. I remember sitting looking at the screen just going, wow, what's going on here? You don't expect to do that. And your brain's not good at doing things it doesn't expect. And as much as I'm a reasonably calm man and a reasonably rational man, the next couple of months, the result that I made in the first 3 days was really bad news for me. I lost a sense of realism around it.
Yeah. And
really, when I took a break and reflected, I realized that I just got carried away with my success and that I had to get back to doing sensible things. And I'm really lucky that ability in trading, I take some liberties as a trader, but if things start going badly, I go back to the basics, and I'm really good at just getting back to the basics and back into that'll work for me.
Yeah.
Mate, we're some years down the track from there, and you've got an incredibly wonderful company put together known as Access to Wealth. I'm very much on board with that, as is Ash. Among the drive for producing quality traders, if you like, which is ATW's mantra, I guess, there's quite a few different trading strategies that are traded and taught in the most part by the designers or modifiers of those strategies. How, over that time, has the exposure to these affected your own approach to trading?
Yeah, look, it's interesting, Jeff. I think about the Access to Wealth trading team from 2 points of view. I think one of the things I realized in the early days was that when I was on the trading floor in London, we were teaching people to trade, and I realized that no one approach worked for everybody, and that if I actually really wanted to help people learn to trade, and I used to work for an organization that didn't really care if people learned or not, and I wanted to create an organization where we genuinely did our best, and part of that was I had to provide stuff for people who weren't the same as me. So I've created a team of traders who trade with us, who trade different things, and I'm really lucky because I don't day by day mentor those people anymore, but I'm involved in all of what they do. Not every day, but from time to time, and I understand the strategies and what they do, and I've seen them all. I've traded with all of them, and what it's done is really given me a really broad range of understanding of things. So I can talk to you about the slingshot. I can talk to Ash about price action. I can talk to Chloe about trend trading. I can talk to Julian about how markets work. And what it means is when I'm looking at markets, I've got a really broad view of them. And I can look at them from one of the things that it can be too much. You can look at markets and see a number of different things at the same time. But I think I'm reasonably good again at working out what I want to trade. And that's changed over time as well. But I think, there's a big theme going through Access to Wealth at the moment. There's always themes going through Access to Wealth. I'm talking a lot about exiting trades. I'm talking a lot about biases. And it's only really from spending some time with Ray, what he was doing when he introduced back into seasonality and COT in his company, that I really got the difference again that I think successful traders, we often subconsciously carry a bias. We hear stuff and it colours us, and we don't really realise we're doing it. And it was only when I sat down with Ray and started to have a look at this stuff that I realised how important it was and what a big difference it can make. And, you know, we're really lucky. We've got some wonderful traders, guys like Orlando, man, that boy can trade. And you get when you see what they do, I'll never be a swing trader like Orlando is, but you do get a chance to see how the market works for him and see how his view of the market can colour your decisions, you know?
It's a pretty good place to be, definitely. And I guess that moves on to probably the next point that I wanted to make. And I guess it's fair to say that the trading goalposts move a little over time, if not a lot sometimes. And I guess with the ATW strategies, the question then becomes, how do they hold up over time?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, the truth is that all the strategies do different things. And again, it's one of the reasons you have multiple people running multiple strategies, because I couldn't update them all for different markets all the time. I remember, you know, maybe 3 years ago, Jeff, we went through a dark patch with the slingshot for maybe a year.
Yep.
It was an awful time. We couldn't make it work. And, you know, eventually, you know, we had some long talks and talked about some stuff, and you went to work and you modified it and you made it work and you made it better than it was before. And I think that, you know, when we put together the trading team and the trading team just assembled, really, I didn't put it together, it turned up, but we just got the right people. Not only people who can trade, but people who are committed to, because they trade, trying to keep their stuff modern and trying to keep their stuff improving. You know, we see Lloyd at the moment is working on some new stuff. It's fascinating, the stuff that man works on. You know, different people in the company are always facing different challenges, and this is just part of trading. That's always going on. There's guys facing challenges. There's guys whose stuff's breaking out and going really well, and we're just in the midst of it trying to support them all.
Yeah, look, this is a statement, not a question. I think the people that you've gathered have one thing very much in common, apart from the fact that they're traders and they're successful traders, is that they really do get the mantra of the company, which is to improve other people's lots in life by teaching them how to trade properly. So no need to comment on that one. That's just a comment that I'd like to make. Mate, a lot of people wouldn't know, I guess, or maybe they do, that you, apart from your trading career and business, is that you're an international sports coach. And I think there's a more than coincidental theme that runs through that. And what I'd like to explore with you today is how much of the sports coach ethos, which is a lot of mental approach, I'm sure, how much of that do you bring to ATW, and how good are you at actually practicing that mantra or that ethos?
Yeah, look, I think it's an interesting question. As you know, I coached indoor cricket for New Zealand and Singapore, and I coached netball for Denmark, and you know, very minor sports in those countries. But I did perhaps 110, 120 internationals between them all. And look, I think you know, I think that eventually, as you get older, coaching becomes less about you and more about the people you're coaching, and you become better at communicating and understanding what they want. And I think also part of being an international coach is you understand the difference between, look, there are things that athletes want and there are things that traders want that aren't in their best interest. And sometimes as a coach, you've got to be prepared to not give them what they want. And that can be really tough on them and really demanding on you. And but sometimes it's the best answer for them. And I think sometimes you've just got to hold up and you've just got to hold on to what you believe is the best answer for the people and commit to it and hope they come on the journey. Most people do. You know, we've been very lucky that, as I say, people think that I put the Action Wealth trading team together as a plan, and it's just not true. It just kind of happened, and we're very lucky. They're the right people, and you know, they're a big part of why I continue to do this. And I know, you know, we're all a big part of why we all continue to do this. You know, we're a good bunch of people who enjoy working together and enjoy doing our best to help other people. You know, and I think that's what coaching is all about.
Yeah, pretty good non-plan. You didn't answer the second part of the question, which I think is probably what I really wanted to get out of you. How good are you at I guess walking the talk? What do they call it? Walking the walk.
Look, I think like everybody, Jeff, you lack perspective on yourself. I think what I'm really good on is that when I'm in doubt, when there's something that just doesn't make sense to me, I pick up the phone and ask Julian, and I don't hesitate to do it.
Yeah.
We've been, we're very lucky to have, professional traders, people like Julian and Justin, who just don't work with other education companies. We're really lucky to have professional traders as part of our group, and to have them as a resource and not use them would be crazy. And Julian's been my mentor for a long time. And, I'm not at all shy to ask for help when I feel like I need help from Julian. It doesn't happen a hell of a lot anymore, but if there's something in the market that I don't understand and I'm not quite clear on, I don't hesitate to ask him. One of the great things about Julian, he's the perfect match for me insofar as when I have a question, he has an answer, which is brilliant.
I think that's, the most important thing you've said today, for me anyway, because I feel that is very much a part of getting from point A to point B as quickly as possible. I think we do that with our own coaching in my strategy, and it's amazing how much it takes to get out of somebody that here is the best way for you to learn is to ask when you've got a question. And I think if everybody could take that on board, they'll probably go a whole lot further. Mentorship, whilst it's a commodity, it's probably one of the most valuable commodities you could ever have.
I think it's a two-way street too, Jeff. I've as long as I've been involved with Julian, unless there's been a specific plan, something we're doing, I've never spoken to him for more than 10 or 15 minutes. And I make a point of, I don't ring him every day or every week or every month, and I never have. And you've got to be really careful as well to be respectful of the mentor. I think a lot about Ainsley and the 120,000 US dollars she made in December, and that, while she was doing that, there were people trying to push into her time. And, their needs may be important to them, but we need her to have the freedom to trade and make that trade so she can teach you that stuff. And there has to be a line between having a mentor available to you and helping you, and respecting their boundaries and allowing them to continue to get better and have the time to focus on what they need to focus on. The first thing you need to do as a mentor is focus on you doing the job.
Too true. I've got a couple more questions, and I know we're running out of time, guys, and this will probably be a common theme through these interviews. But we try to keep it as brief as we possibly can. But I find chatting to other traders just an incredibly interesting scenario. This is a quick one, and I know you're not going to be able to answer it. But if you could improve a trader, both a novice or a seasoned trader, in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's only one word.
Oh,
I'll talk a bit about the word. Focus. Look, the number one problem we have for traders is that there's so much distraction. It only takes one negative person to get in the head of a trader, and that trader's in trouble.
Yeah.
And if you let negative people distract you away from what you're doing, we have people who work really hard and they do really well and they have a lot of success. And it takes one guy to have a bad week and start bitching about it. And inside the community, they can cause immense damage. And I think there's another thing. This is part of the coaching thing, Jeff. When you run organizations and they get bigger, there's always going to be negative people turning up in your organization. We've been really lucky. Yep. We've had some wonderful people in the organization. But you've just got to be able to trust your people to make good decisions. And to be able to separate out, sometimes you have people in your organization who perhaps have been planted by other organizations, people with some pretty disappointing agendas. And you've just got to back. There's always one or two people that just jump on the bandwagon and go, oh, yeah, da-da-da-da. But you just got to stay out of that stuff and stay away from the negative stuff and focus on what your job is. And if you just take all of that stuff and put it to one side, and instead of listening to that, you just focus on becoming a better trader every day, you'll get there. It's the distractions that kill us. Just focus on what we're supposed to be doing.
Isn't that true, not just of trading, but pretty much your whole damn life?
Look, it's certainly, in my experience, there's a huge amount of distraction in today's world. And really, if you can focus on what's important to you and just work hard at it, my experience is that eventually some success comes your way.
Is that, in a way, another way of saying, plan the trade and trade the plan? Because that almost gets forgotten, doesn't it? Because as you said earlier, there's so much information and there's so many ways that you develop as a trader, and almost you have to go through the way that you are going to process the new information, and the transition between planning the trade and trading the plan in one way might be different in a year's time. But, you know, is it almost another way of saying that, you know, make sure that if you are introducing something new, that that it becomes part of a really concrete plan.
Yeah, look, Ash, I think you only ever introduce something to your plan when the market's closed and you can go back and back test it without the emotions of the market being open.
Yeah.
And I think you do. I think you know, that's trading psychology 101.
Yeah.
Have a plan, follow the plan, psychology good.
Yeah.
Have a plan, leave the plan, psychology bad. And it's as simple as that. And
what about don't have a plan, don't follow the plan?
Well, don't have a plan, don't follow the plan, give your money to me.
I just wanted to add the other one that you hadn't mentioned.
You know, at the end of the day, those guys, they can have a good week or a good month, but, you know, they're going to get destroyed. And, you know, this is, you know, as you guys know, we've got half a dozen guys who trade a licensed fund with us that have come through our program. We're trying to create professional traders and traders of a standard. And that's different to what others are doing somewhere in the world where they're just trying to milk a bit of money out of it, you know. It's a very different thing, you know.
Mate, I think that probably leads us to, I guess, in many ways, a wrap-up question, and it's all about what we plan to get from these interviews with traders around the world, and what we plan to do, guys, is ask each of these interviewers as we go through the let's call it Let's Meet a Trader series, what, if anything, they can offer you guys as either wannabe or seasoned traders who seek more information on what and how they actually trade the markets. That's probably not applicable today, and I think we've got an issue around the world at the moment, in particular with a lot of us, the clients of ATW, where this coronavirus has affected a lot of people and will likely affect a lot more people as we go through the next, 2 or 3 months or however long it takes. Paul, I know as a company, we've had, I guess, a good reaction to the client's needs because we are aware of what is actually going on around the place. What, if any, are the plans of ATW going forward with these virus, or in this virus-infected times?
Yeah, it's a good question, Jeff. Look, in Singapore, I was in Singapore when it went from yellow to orange on the warning scale, and to be honest, the reaction in Singapore really was quite noticeable. And look, Singaporeans are rational people, and there's no panic, but their lives are being impacted. And in truth, on Monday last week, I went to 2 meetings in Singapore, and getting into those meetings was appreciably more difficult than it was getting into New Zealand on Tuesday.
Really?
Oh yeah, I had to fill in declarations saying this and that. I had to have my temperature taken, have a sticker put on with my temperature on it. And they didn't single me out, Ash. I don't live on the same street as someone with coronavirus like you do.
It's not the same street, mate. She lives next door to me.
Next door, you need to go on holiday, bro. You need to go far away.
You need to go out.
Try to be the safest place you could be. But look, I think one of the things that we're seeing is what I saw was that Singaporeans' lives right now are not a lot of fun. People are going home. They're staying indoors. People are working from home. And the meetings I saw, literally one of the meetings I saw while I was there, people in that company were being made redundant because the company was concerned that they just couldn't afford to employ them long term. And it's I think there's perhaps a little more pain. It's not. We're very fortunate. None of our people have got coronavirus that we're aware of. We don't expect anyone to. We don't expect to have any fatalities. But the quality of life of a lot of our people is really under pressure. And you know, we plan on coming pretty big. We'll be making announcements from tomorrow about what we'll do in the next 6 weeks to roll out free additional education at all levels, from complete beginner stuff for our IFP clients through to the senior mentorship students. We'll be rolling out additional stuff for free for all of them. We'll be making it, there'll be no sales involved. None of the programs that we roll out will have a sell involved. They'll just be simply extra education and extra content for people who have got time at home and have got time to look stuff up and have got time to do some research and have got time to trade. You know, we're going to try and take one of the traders said to us today. He's working from home in Asia, that you never really realise how small your house is until you've got to spend a week living in it. And you know, we'd really like to create some distraction for people who, and he's not quarantined, he's just working from home and doesn't want to go out. And you know, I think there's a fair bit of that at the moment, and that Singaporeans aren't the complaining type. but I don't think life's as good for them as it has been from an enjoyment point of view. And we're going to try and provide some content for them, and then we'll roll it out starting tomorrow. But there's going to be more support for every level. It's going to be every program that we've run in the mentorship. We're going to have a follow-up session to that where the senior traders are going to come on and talk about, for people who attended them, they're going to give them some extra content. They're going to make sure they're doing okay. We're going to try and help them out. We're going to run a couple of extra programs where we're going to offer them free to the mentorship. We're going to discount them to the non-mentorship. We're going to run out a comprehensive program in the next 6 weeks or so. To see if we can give Singaporeans and people in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Thailand, just some distraction from this. And I don't mean to trivialise it because it's a bit of a disease, and what's going on in the world at the moment is pretty sad. Good day today, just quietly. Almost no infection outside of China today so far, and what I can see. And maybe it'll be over in a week, and if it is, we're just going to keep rolling it out. But we are going to roll out some stuff in the next week. For those people that are spending more time at home, and for those people who need a distraction in life right now, we're going to try and give you a hell of a lot of content, a huge amount of extra stuff. In the next 6-7 weeks, we will run out, as we've done a couple of times before in the past when we thought that things for some of our people weren't going particularly well. We provided a lot of, assistance to different groups, and we're going to try and run out some stuff here to really help those that want to be helped. And we're going to see if we can do some pretty special stuff for them.
Mate, that sounds fantastic. I'm sure Ash and I will be absolutely 100% behind that.
Undoubtedly.
And look forward to doing what we can to help that situation, to alleviate that dreadful situation that, you guys find yourselves in.
Mate, can I answer one question off YouTube before I go? And I need to go. I've got people waiting for me on another call.
I was just about to ask it to you, but go.
Cool. Look, as new traders, how do we go through bad week? Look, one of the things I'd really encourage you to understand is as a trader in your life, you're going to have a bad hour. At some stage, you'll have a bad day. At some stage, you'll have a bad week. At some stage, you'll have a bad month. Julian has been profitable for 27 of the last 28 years, which means he had a bad year. And part of being a trader is just accepting the fact that nothing works in all markets. Every strategy has good times and bad times. Every trader has good times and bad times. Leon, the guy who's now head of risk for an audio bank, took a year out from trading after his divorce. Traded for the first month and just couldn't do it, and had a break. And look, sometimes when it's going badly, I don't think you guys need breaks unless there's that kind of stuff going on. But you just need to hold on to your vision. I was reading some stuff on Ross Taylor got some advice, a New Zealand cricketer, from one of the great coaches in world cricket. He just said, look, set yourself bigger goals, keep working. And my encouragement for you is, hold on to your vision, hold on to what you want. Create a plan. Understand how you're not going to get there by luck. Create a plan. What are you going to do? What are the things that are going to help you? One of the truths for new traders, they've often got to trial a number of different things to find the one that's working for them. And when you find the one that works for you, pretty much people tend to know pretty quickly. Jeff, you knew the slingshot was your strategy pretty early, didn't you? Not early. That's not true. Pretty clearly when you found it.
Yeah, when I found it, absolutely. Yeah, it was clear because it suits me. It suits my lifestyle, suits my way of thinking, suits my risk profile. So yeah, it was me.
When you found your thing, you knew you'd found your thing.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Yeah. It was like the clouds had cleared. And I think it's a really good point that everybody is different and everybody does have a different personality type. So somebody described it to me that the market is very similar to music in as much that you will like a different style of music than I will like, and Jeff will like a different style of music than the two of us will like. And the market's like that. We do kind of draw towards a different way of appreciating how it works and enjoying how it works, actually. So
I like that, enjoying how it works. Look, every trader goes through bad times, and look, it's one of the things, again, don't get distracted. There's so many, there's always someone prepared to be negative and say something bad about something, but just keep working. That's what we did. And, we didn't have the sort of support and, traders around us when we were learning that you have around you.
Certainly did not.
So, my advice to you is to stay positive, stay focused, have a plan, and, every month or two, do a little review and see whether you think you're trading the thing that's right for you. And maybe for you, it'll be scalping, maybe it'll be swing trading, maybe it'll be trend trading, maybe it'll be something like the slingshot, maybe something like price action, maybe it'll be something that's ultra long term. only you, and perhaps with some help, you can find this more quickly, but only you can find that stuff out, and that's why trading is unique. And if you're having a bad week, let it just understand. I just don't know of anything you can do in the world where you're not going to have a bad week. I reckon even as a rock star, I mean, Elton John had a bad week. He broke down on stage at Auckland on Sunday night. You know,
That's
not
right,
a great night for the man. Left the stage in tears.
Yeah.
And there's an absolute genius at work.
Yeah.
One of the 4 or 5 times that I've actually been at an Elton John concert, he actually passed out on stage. So he,
you know, these are parts of life, and if your expectation is to become a forex trader and everything becomes magically better, then maybe you need to stop reading fairy tales and get on with life and understand there's going to be good times and bad times, and having good people around you and support. The good times far outweigh the bad times. You'll get there if you keep going. Don't get distracted and don't get discouraged. And Ash, FTSE's bouncing off 200 moving average, not far from monthly pivot. I'm not 100% sure in your short just yet.
Oh, mate, I'm pretty comfortable with this one. Pretty comfortable.
I know you are. I just threw it in for discussion. Thanks for the interview, guys. I do have people waiting for me, and look, I appreciate everybody who stayed and listened, and I hope that the session's been of some use to you. And Ash and Jeff, thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for coming, mate.
Coming on board. Really enjoyed that. That was good fun.
It was great fun.
Sorry, mate. We'll see if we can by Thursday have it confirmed who you're going to do next for next Tuesday.
Absolutely. Sounds good. LT, the other question of yours, euro dollar, it's slowing down. Yeah, it is. It's gone into consolidation big time. You know what?
Now, just on that,
might give us an opportunity.
Yeah, just on that, LT, that the reason that I would suspect that we are in consolidation mode right now is that we are waiting for those German ZEW economic sentiment numbers. So it's probably not going to move until those numbers are released. And when those numbers are released, then we might start to see some either uplift or downward movement if they are significant enough. So be a little bit careful. And personally, it's in a buy zone. It's in a significantly low buy zone, so there's plenty of time to get on board with this one. So let's let these numbers roll out. Now, the other thing that we haven't really discussed so far this week is the week at hand. You know, the fundamentals for the week at hand. So I'm going to touch on it before we go, just so you guys don't get caught out with trading. Now, why can't I share my screen? Where are you, Jeff?
Do I have to stop? I shouldn't have to stop.
Have to stop. Oh, hold on a second. This usually works. Here we go.
Maybe I
okay. Here we go. Now, I just want to touch on this week because there are some things that we need to consider. We have got ZEW numbers out very, very shortly, and those ZEW numbers could cause a bit of a blip in the market one way or the other. CPI out of the pound on Wednesday. Again, it's more of a kind of blip number than anything else. This is where it gets interesting. FOMC minutes, meeting minutes on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time. Now, that's going to be fairly significant. And I think most importantly are the ECB monetary policy minutes as well. So just be a little bit careful with the euro, not to dive in too early. As I say, you know, when we look at the euro, look at the FTSE, here it comes. When we look at the euro, the way that this is shaping up is for us to be in a fairly good point to be trying to trade this long. You know, it's even if it's just for a short-term bounce, there's still plenty of room, which means that we can allow those numbers just to filter through a little bit. You know, we can allow some statements and numbers to filter through. We don't have to dive into this one. It's undoubtedly in hugely oversold territory down here. So I get the desire to get in down here, but I think that there's probably a few twists and turns that we can probably allow to pass before we have to be diving into the euro. So just be a little bit more patient. I would wait until Thursday personally before I'll be trading the euro in any specific direction. If you're looking at short term, you've still got to stick with the shorts. But if you're looking at trading something which is a bit more medium term, then I'd wait until Thursday personally.
Okay, and Lewis is telling us FOMC this week as well. I don't think it's FOMC. I think it's the minutes, isn't it? Of
That's right. That's right. But it will be a significant statement potentially. So, you know, we've got this coronavirus sticking around, and things are faltering because of it. We see the FTSE 100 continuing to ease itself to the downside. What I quite like right now is that those stocks that I was talking about that were shoving themselves to the upside are just turning a little bit. We've got now Barclays that was up near 1%. Now it's just up around about half of 1%. Taylor Wimpey, which is a building stock and very much a national kind of, will have a national bias on why it moves. That's up shy of 1%. We've got Tesco up 0.1%. So that's about to change into negative territory. Royal Bank of Scotland is now falling. Lloyd's is now falling. And all the other big guns in the FTSE 100 are currently falling. So there is no suggestion at this stage, from what I can see, that this market is turning. So we are really looking to continue to allow the market to develop. I still think the 10 o'clock time frame is probably when we start to move a bit more significantly, and that significant could be that we start moving to the upside. There's no doubt about that, but the trend is to the downside, and the numbers currently are pointing lower. So that would suggest that the FTSE may well go with the rest of the markets. And when I say the rest of the markets, here's the Dow Jones on the hourly chart. That is breaking down. We're starting to see the dollar yen also breaking to the downside. The pound is starting to just surge again to the upside, so that's not going to help the FTSE 100 out too much. The S&P breaking to the downside, NASDAQ breaking to the downside, probably on an area of support, and it could do with closing this gap before really falling. But there's certainly some weakness out there today, so there's a bit of patience needs to be employed. But right now things look a little bit heavy on the worldwide markets.
We're reading risk off day.
I think we are, mate. I think we are. Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure how that Aussie's doing. Not too well either. But
stop it.
Well, it could be turning at some point. But
well, as long as it retraces, I'm more than happy if it heads in that direction. Mate.
We're having a bit of a pause. That's for sure. We are having a little bit of a pause. So maybe a retracement is about to come. I don't know. But
yeah, if we get back to that weekly pivot, I'm happy chappy. All right.
Yeah.
I'm about done, mate, I think. I can't see another trade to enter into. I think with the euro, as I said before, it may well be forming that double bottom that I was looking for. If it were to then break the daily pivot and resistance trend line that goes through the daily pivot and then retest it, putting in a higher low at that point, then I'd most definitely be willing to trade it on a small time frame only, up to probably the previous high, which is around about the 108.60 mark. So I'd be prepared to take probably 30 pips out of the market. That'd be about as far as I'd be willing to go with it today. If it then gave us a reversal, maybe tomorrow on a bigger time frame, then we can look at it again. But the only way I want to trade it today is on a small time frame, and as a you could call it a scalp if you want, but you've got to wait for that signal. Sorry, you don't have to do anything. I have to wait for that signal off the double bottom, which will be a higher low. That will be minimum required for me to get there. Chris, to your question, pound seems to be getting weaker. Should we consider exiting pound? Pound as in the breakout trade?
Yeah, I think he means the breakout trade. The pound has popped, doesn't it?
It has, but it doesn't quite make any sense to me. If the pound is weakening, that would have been good if the pound continued to weak because we're in the short. So the strategy requires us to stay in the trade. But if you're at any stage uncomfortable about being in any trade, get the hell out of there. That would be my advice. There's no point sitting in a trade uncomfortable and sweating and thinking, oh, God, I wish I got out of that trade 20 pips ago.
Yeah.
If you're uncomfortable, get the hell out.
Yeah. And if there is some discomfort, then I'd also look at your money management. You know, that might be, you may be a little bit overexposed. I think Paul's point is very poignant. You know, what he was saying about giving yourself some time, because we do have bad days, bad months. I do occasionally have a bad month, and that's just the way it is, and you have to go into management mode. But if you've got poor money management, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to think clearly. So if you are more sweating than you should be, it might be that you're a little bit overexposed, and there's no need to be overexposed to this market. I tell people this all the time: go in light. You make plenty of money going in light. You do not have to try and hit the ball out of the park. That isn't the game. This game is all about sustainability, and it's about consistency. And the only way we can really do that is by going in with money that we can afford, that our account offers us.
Yep, absolutely right. We make our money before we get into the market, because we've got a plan. Got to have that plan, and we lose our money if we don't have that plan. So be prepared before you get into the trade to account for these contingencies, not while you're in there. It's not a great idea.
Too right, mate. Pound has popped quite significantly, interestingly, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, look, it doesn't look good for that short breakout trade. There's no question there, but the strategy requires us to stay in it until it's over. So yeah, that's exactly what we'll do.
And I'll be looking into why.
Simple as that.
I'm going to look into why that goes on. Do you know what? Interestingly, I think a folding story might be Boris Johnson's maybe slight lack of humility. He won the election so significantly, and he's already lost his chancellor. I think this story may well be that the beast of Boris Johnson may well come out in the next year, and we might start to see some Trump-esque behaviour, which I'm not too sure whether that's going to be quite as forgiving for Boris Johnson as it has been for Trump.
Yeah, probably not. Wow. Do we need two? Not sure. Melvin, I don't trade gold. Ash, you want to make a comment on gold? We've got to get out of here, I know. And LT, to your question about the euro dollar, the Aussie, look, my bias is 100% short the Aussie. So if you found a way in, then happy days. I wouldn't be thinking of getting out of it.
Yeah, gold certainly looks like it's going to 1596 at this particular stage, and it may well go through that if this story continues to unfold. I think maybe one company isn't enough, but it certainly does add some concern as a barometer for the rest of the companies. I.e., Apple saying what it has said. I think that could be problematic for the rest of the markets. So gold has got every chance of going and breaking to the upside, but I think if you're not in this, it may be a shade late to be trying to trade gold long. I think that there's probably easier trades out there. Maybe namely the dollar yen might be a better trade. There is a head and shoulders pattern here, so maybe this one might be better. It's probably got a bit further to run than gold has.
Okay, mates, I've got no new trades. I am done for the day, and I'll be putting in my claim for overtime probably in the morning.
Yep, sounds good to me, mate. Sounds good to me.
All right, as well. What's double nothing?
My math has never been the best, which is probably why we're still here. All right, buddy.
It's the candles that work, not the numbers.
Yeah, this is it.
Thank God for candles.
Well, have a great rest of the day, mate. And
you too, bud.
You guys too. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and we will be back same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow. That will be at 5 to 8.
And don't you be late. And that is a very firm date. See you guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye for now.